Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we have Waylon Jennings, and this is going to be coming from 1975, and he's going to be playing through Rambling Man. So let's get him up on screen and see how he gets on.
I've been down to Mississippi, down through New Orleans. Lord, I played in California. There ain't too much I haven't seen. Lord, I'm a rambling man. Don't fool around with a rambling man. Left a girl in West Virginia, up there where that green grass grows. I played in California, never know. Thought I'm a rambling man, don't fool around with a rambling man. You better move away, you're standing too close to the flame. Woo. Once I mess with your mind, your little heart won't beat the same. Man, don't fool around with any old rambling man.
I'm just going to jump in here because we've had a good vibe as to what's going on with this performance, and if you've noticed it, there is something that's really rare about this performance because Waylon was singing, and I think it got to a point where he was maybe forgetting the words, and if you do know the original song, you'll know that there is another verse that we've still got to go to, but it seems like with this live performance, this is something that might happen live, that the singer or the artist will forget words, and normally, of course, if you're playing to a backing track or miming, it's an absolute nightmare because you wouldn't be saying the same words, whereas, of course, this is back in the day where musicians were musicians, and in 1975, they would just roll it round. So we went to that pedal steel solo, and it's just a classic sound of country. And the thing about this, especially with the progression, is how close we are. We're really dancing that line between country and blues. And the thing that's making it more country than blues is just keeping a little bit more on the edge of those major scale notes rather than pushing it in to that minor scale. But this country sound of keeping it upbeat, staying on those majors, but also the way that the band are continuing to play here. And if you don't know the song, you wouldn't think that anything was wrong because now Waylon's going to start playing a little bit of a solo, and we'll be able to have a little look at some hybrid picking technique in there as well. And it's interesting the different sound that you get from this kind of country, which was referred to as outlaw country, and it was a backlash against the Nashville sound, guys like Chet Atkins, who were technically great guitarists and in the studio produce a very polished sound, whereas Waylon was one of those guys that was just a bit rough around the edges, and that was the kind of music. That was very much the connection that he made with the audience, and that was the personality of the music. And a great example here, the way that the vocal doesn't mess around. He's just telling you that story, and you're going to listen to it. Guys like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson were part of this sound where the lyrics and the story were just as important as the playing and really did connect with an audience. There was a serious point to what they were saying with their music. And this track was written by Ray Pennington, who released it in 1967 and got to number 29, but then with Waylon's version, Waylon managed to get to number 1 in the US country charts and also number 2 in the Canadian country charts as well. So it was very much more successful for Waylon. I'm going to get back to the video, and considering now that this is pretty much an ad-lib from here on, because Waylon should have come in with that third verse, but now he's going to the guitar to play a solo, and the band are just going to be looping it round until the end. So let's get back into it and see what happens. And there we have it. As you can see, the video is about to cut out. But that ending definitely wouldn't have been rehearsed, so they're all looking at Waylon for when he's going to finish. We saw at 3 minutes 11 the way that Waylon got a little bit more minor bass with his playing, pushing it to that blues, but then came back to the major keys after that, back more sitting in that country vibe. And at 3:18 is where he starts to change the rhythm in terms of the emphasis with the rest of the band by what he's playing on the guitar, because then the bass and the drums now start to follow, especially the bass with that walking bass line that then starts up. As I said, totally ad-libbed, because they're filling this time where there would be that third verse. And if you've seen my video on Buddy Holly, then you'll have heard Waylon's name before, because Buddy was responsible for organising Waylon's first recording and got him to play bass in his band, and also Waylon gave up his seat on the ill-fated flight. But check out the Buddy Holly video on this channel for more information about all of that stuff. But he started playing from a very young age, and he's one of those guys that he left school at 16 because he just had this urge and this desire to be a musician, and he just believed all the time that he would make it. Waylon was really instrumental at the beginning of this outlaw country movement and the sound, and especially, of course, in the 70s, mid-70s, he was part of a compilation album which was the first ever country album to go platinum, and that was called Wanted the Outlaws, and Willie Nelson, who I mentioned earlier, was on that as well. By the early 80s, unfortunately, Waylon struggled with addiction, but fortunately by the mid-80s he managed to see the back of that, and he joined the supergroup with Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson, and they were called the Highwaymen. So they had success as a supergroup, but also in 1986 Waylon released his album called Will the Wolf Survive, and that was a big hit for him as an album as well. In 2001, he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, and unfortunately in 2002 is when Waylon passed away due to complications of diabetes. But back in the 70s and performances like this, he absolutely pulls no punches, and that was part of the appeal. This is a great video to have a look at because it also shows how a professional band deal with problems when they're playing live and circumstances that they might not be ready for, such such as Waylon not singing the third verse and maybe forgetting the words. But if you didn't know this song, you would just assume that we had that pedal steel guitar solo, and then Waylon plays his solo, and then they see it out until the end, and we had that little rhythmic change in there as well to make it interesting. So all of these things that are done on the fly that people don't necessarily notice when they're watching a live performance, but it certainly is interesting to break it down. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.